In this episode of Retro Gaming Night, we go on holiday with Mario and play Super Mario Sunshine.
Casually hardcore.
Place the game clothing. Game news.
And casually hardcore.
Press start.
Hi there, my name is Mark and welcome to another episode of Retro Gaming Night. Today we are looking at Super Mario Sunshine on the Nintendo Gamecube. So this is the sequel to Super Mario 64. And the basic story, and this one actually has a bit of a story, is Mario has gone on holiday to Island Delfino. So he's got bored of his go-karting and playing tennis and plumbing, I guess, and decided to go on holiday, where he meets people like this, who look extremely weird. When he lands there, first thing he comes across is a huge oil slick and a thing called Flood, and we'll talk about Flood in a moment. But just after that, he gets put in prison. There's no trial, no jury. Basically, there is a shadowy figure who looks like Mario, as you can see here, who causes all sorts of havoc, and they've blamed Mario. But that won't make much of a game, so Mario quickly goes to clear his name, and this is where the game starts. So on Island Delfino, you start off, and we'll get into that right now, in the hub world itself, which is basically the same as the Princess Peach Castle in Mario 64. So this is where you access all your levels and things like that. It is absolutely huge though, you know, multiple times the size of the actual castle itself. The game originally starts out with everything being quite dull, and the whole point is you've got to get the stars, or as they're known in the Japanese version, shines, to actually make the world a brighter place, to make everything sunny again. And this game is a really bright game. As you can see here, you can see off way into the distance, you can actually see the other levels in the distance there. But we'll jump into a level. This is a beautiful looking game though, extremely vibrant. You know, this really is Nintendo showing what the game can really do. It's got huge draw distances, you don't see any pop up. There's all sorts of fun effects like heat haze, reflections and stuff like that as well. You know, this really shows Mario 64 up for its looks. Obviously it's on a better console, but this is a true next-gen Mario title. So we'll talk about the controls and Flood while we play this first level here. So controls are pretty similar to Mario 64. You've got full degree movement, you've got all his moves, all sorts of things. They have added on the Flood, which is this item on the back here. So what you can do is you can use the analog triggers to shoot water everywhere, which we'll get onto in a second later on the level. You can use it to do other things like you can hover as well to make things a little bit easier in the game, and there's a few other nozzles in there as well. But let's talk about the actual camera controls. They've changed them a lot. Before in Mario 64, the game controlled the camera by itself pretty much for the most of the time, offering you control though when required. In this game, the camera doesn't do anything. It basically sits there and follows you most of the time, just avoiding obstacles. So you really need to mess around with the camera. You need to control it at all times. You've got full 360 degree movement now, and you can zoom in and out as much as you like, and a lot further than in Mario 64. But you do need to play this with one hand on one stick, controlling Mario, and the other controlling the camera at all times, or you're not going to get very far. And this is one of the first complaints that most people have about this game, is that you have to spend a lot of time controlling Mario and the camera, and it is just extremely awkward. You know, you're trying to get around, you don't want to mess around with the camera all the time. As you can see here, it's an absolutely huge level, and this is the first level. Just that area alone over there would have been the whole size of a Mario 64 level. It is absolutely huge, and there is no pop-up to be seen. You can see enemies way off into the distance. This game has a lot of niggles though, and you know, we want to celebrate games in these videos, but we have to make you aware of the problems, especially if you've just played Mario 64 after watching our first video. Mario 64 is the best game ever made. This quote from Edge magazine is the second best game ever made. It's not. It's a very good Mario game, a very, very good one, but it has a lot of problems. Basically, the game was rushed to launch. It came out in 2002, a year after the Gamecube had been out. You know, the Gamecube had not launched a Mario title. We had Luigi in Luigi's Mansion, which you can watch in the previous video. but Nintendo really needs to get this out there to compete against the Xbox, basically, who they were like neck and neck with at the time. They were being absolutely destroyed by the PS2. And because of that, we actually lost Nintendo's trademark of actually polishing games to perfection, basically. There's a lot of glitches in here. The camera's one of them, it's not the best. You can fall through the floor as Mario. There's a lot of stars that are difficult, not because they are a challenge, but because the game is annoying, the camera gets in the way, and objects get in the way, and you just get frustrated. The game sort of... basically, if you die, it's not always your fault. Sometimes it is the game's fault. And that's not the Nintendo style. But here we've got the oil slick, which I mentioned earlier, and the flood. You know, this is a really lovely effective way it gets visible, really clever, and really showing off the power of the Gamecube as well. You've got all sorts of weird creatures in this. You know, the Mushroom Kingdom has always been a bit weird with its sort of characters. They've always kind of seemed to fit in. But here you get some strange characters on the island. I know it's not the Mushroom Kingdom, it's a different place, but they're really not Mario characters at all. And a lot of people have mentioned that if this was a title by any other name, without Mario as the star, it probably would have been looked at more favourably by everyone, because it really is a really good platformer. It's just not as good as Mario 64. So when you use the flood, you have to clear up the oil spills, which we're doing here, and you can also use it to fight bosses and other enemies. So in this game, you have to use the flood a lot, whether it's to use it in the platforming, jumping around, or whether it's cleaning up the spills. Most of the levels have at least 1 star requiring you to clean up the spills. Many more have you fighting enemies using it, or using it to get over obstacles. So yeah, this game, you know, it looks fantastic. It sounds really good as well. The music is pretty memorable. Not maybe up there with Mario 64, but it certainly does have a lot of tunes that are quite charming, and a lot that you'll hear in the later games have been remixed, like in Mario Galaxy and stuff. One thing about this game, it is extremely difficult. Partly because of the polish, you know, there are some big difficulty spikes in there. But, you know, this first level was quite challenging. You know, you have enemies constantly harassing you. You've got the oil to clean up. You've got the camera to deal with. You've got loads of controls to deal with. You've got the flood and so on. It is not an easy game, especially at the start. Mario 64, if you've watched our first video, we showed you in the very first level, you know, you're basically left alone and you can take things at your own pace. Here, you know, things get tough, and they get even tougher later on, either because the stars are quite difficult or because of the game not being all that polished. So what we're going to show you now, just before we get into a second level, is Yoshi is actually playable in this game. So let's jump up. So as you can see, there's an egg. We've got to go and collect him a banana. So in this game, you'll find Yoshi in various levels. So he's not always available. He's only available for certain stars, or you can find him in the hub world as well. Now Yoshi's here. They work a bit differently to in other games. So you can ride Yoshi. Getting the fruits of the Yoshi will give you a different type of Yoshi, so different Yoshis have different special abilities. So if you get a pink one, you can turn certain enemies into floating platforms, which helps you out later on for certain stars. Let's just feed this to him. And there we've got a Yoshi. So you can obviously float and jump as Yoshi as normal. This is great fun playing as Yoshi. You know, first time in a 3D game we've been able to play as him. You've got his classic tongue, so you can grab things like that, so fruit and enemies, as well as other things. And also you can use him as the flood, so there he is being sick everywhere. It's a bit weird with a design choice, but there we go. So when this came out, this had actually pretty good reviews. Most people ignored the niggles to start with. They normally came about when people were playing the game. You know, some of the stars, especially involving Yoshi, that involve water, are quite difficult and a pain. So as you watch here, you think, oh, this will be fun, we can go swimming with Yoshi. Oh, no, he's evaporated and disappeared, and now we've got to go and get him again. And lots of stars involve Yoshi have water in them. So not the most fun, but let's go into the next level. Basically, the levels in here are a lot of fun. There's 120 stars to get, although not all of them are challenges like this. Most of them, well, not most of them, quite a few of them, probably about 1/3 of them, involve getting 10 hidden blue coins and transferring them into a star. Now these blue coins are hidden around the levels. Some of them are quite obvious, they're in your face. Others are really abstract and obscure, like they're in a post that you have to spray water over. you'd never have guessed that. You need to have the guide to actually see that. But most of the stars are actually pretty fun. There's a couple that are a bit broken, which if you look around the internet you will have seen and read about. But for the most part, this is a classic Mario game. It is really good. It introduces some new characters that you've seen elsewhere in the Mario games, for example. You know, there is nothing really to hate about this game. There are, like I say, some problems, and it's really hard not to really mention them. You have to in this game to lower your expectations ever so slightly from Mario 64. It's a really good game, just not as good as Mario 64. You've got real-time reflections in here. That is really cool. So if you've not played Mario 64, which should you play first? Mario 64 is the better game. Probably get that out of the way first, so this doesn't sell your experience. I make it sound more negative than it actually is. It's really not a bad game. It's a brilliant game. It's just not as good as Mario 64, as I keep saying. It looks wonderful. It plays wonderful. It will keep you going for hours on end. It's just a shame that Nintendo did not have a few more hours or weeks or months to spare just to polish that game to perfection, because it really could have been the ultimate Mario game. But as it is huge fun. It looks fantastic. It plays well. There's really not much to say about it. It's a great 3D platformer. You should definitely get it. You can get it on the Gamecube. Obviously you can play it on the Wii if your Wii can play Gamecube games, and that's the only way to play it. So it definitely should be in your collection despite its flaws. And so, if you like this video, make sure you hit like. Don't forget to subscribe, because we've got more videos coming out every single day for the next month. And stay casually hardcore.
Did you enjoy that video? Then hit that like button. Why not subscribe as well and get the latest videos, news and competitions? Don't forget to check out casuallyhardcore.com, where you can buy hundreds of video game shirts and geek clothing, or make your own shirts with worldwide shipping also available. Until next time, stay casually hardcore.